Hello everyone. In this video I will show and describe the oil pump assembly, how to disassemble it, what to look for, and how to assemble it after all. Okay, so for those who don't know, we have actually two pumps in SXV which are connected together. The one you see right now, it is uh, it is a suction pump which is responsible to gather oil from cases into the oil reservoir tank, which is just next to front of frame, let's say. Okay, so here we can see the fil internal filter of suction pump. It is made from some kind of metal, aluminum, I'm not sure. And because my engine had some issue with blown piston, there are a lot of metal obstacles, particles inside, and that's why I had to disassemble this part of pump to clean it better. As you can see, a lot of aluminum parts are coming out of this filter. And now this is very important to uh, pay attention here and take your time to clean it very carefully and with enough precision. We don't want to have any any remaining aluminum or other parts here. As you can see, I'm using compressed air and things like just flying away all the time. Okay, it has to be cleaned perfectly. To be honest, in my opinion, this part should be designed in a different way. It should be fully you in my opinion it would have to be um, it would have to be possible to open it. Okay, right now it is impossible to open it fully, and I think it should be possible with some Siger ring or any other similar solution. For now, I need to be just, I need to be, I suspect that this is clean enough so I can put it back to the engine. Okay, but I cannot verify it for 100%. Okay, as you can see, I'm using some screwdriver. Please be polite with it. We don't want to damage this net, this metal net which is inside. Okay, if we do that, all filtering will be lost. Okay, some of you guys from forum asked me about those rusted gears from gearbox, why I didn't clean them up. Okay, let me explain. This is because this is only a thin layer, thin layer of rust. It's it's not even a rust. It's just a colored like dust or something. It will just disappear after I fill with gearbox oil and after a first gearbox oil replacement, it will be all gone. So it is not worth to deal with it. If there was a bigger amount of rust and dirt, I would definitely do something with that. But right now, it's just a layer. It's not important. One more thing, one member asked me about if I can lower volume down on the original video and keep the normal volume on my voice comments. And in this video, I followed the advice and the original video will be with less volume than my voice comment. I hope it will be okay for you. Okay, so as you can see right now, I'm cleaning this net, which is a filter for suction pump, and I didn't finish that. This oil pump on this side is connected with the other pump on the other side, which is a pump, which is uh, putting pressure oil into the crank area. Okay, right now I'm taking out a two-part rotor. It's two-part because first one is internally rotating, making the oil to come into the suction, and external one is to avoid cases damage. Okay, so the pump is just rotating inside the harder material. Okay, now we can see there are some markings, scratches. So this has to be definitely replaced. For probably if there is someone wants to to just make it running, it will run. But when I'm doing the engines, I'm just checking, inspecting everything, and if it's something, in my opinion, needs to be removed or replaced, I'm doing it. Okay. Here is a pin which is responsible for keeping rotor actually so rotor can spin. And you cannot see right now, but when you take out the pin on this side, there is also a seal inside. And this seal, I recommend to replace as well. It is responsible so that pressure oil from the other side won't go into the gearbox area. You install it that you can see uh, number numbers from the other side. Okay, so now we need to remove sprocket and another sprocket so we can disassemble the high pressure oil pump. As you can see, it is not that easy. Probably if I have a better tools, it will be much easier. But you can do it with a little bit effort with a normal Siger scissors. And to be honest, on other engines, I didn't have such a problem with this Siger ring. I don't know why in this one it is, pain in the ass. So, but eventually I think I got it with no issue. As a tip, as I did, it is the easiest way is to just to open the Siger and pull the sprocket up. It will just disassemble everything. So on this side, there will be two pins. First one is the one I just took out, which is keeping the sprocket on pin, and the second one is under the cover. The cover is set by 4 screws. As you can see there is also one seal visible, and it is important that this seal has to be in very good condition. And this is also important that this seal is a high pressure oil seal. It's not a regular seal, but for high pressure. Okay, here the oil pressure is generated, and if this seal fails, the oil from engine will go into the gearbox area, which will cause to overfill and fill our airbox with oil. Okay, so after we them out, we will see the internal rotor again, but but this time for pressure pump, and there will be one more pin on the main bolt, which connects two pumps together. In my opinion, in engines which I already repaired, uh, the internal bearings of oil pumps are always better shape on this high pressure oil side. I'm not sure why. Maybe because it is better filtered. Oil is better filtered until it goes into the pump, or I don't know. But generally, those you can see here, those look much better. Okay, I will still replace them because I already ordered those rotors. They are not that expensive, so it is worth to. If there are any marks or usage, it is just worth to replace them and forget about issue. Okay. When you take out this small pin and this bolt, you need to inspect that there is no any sharp objects or markings on this bolt. Okay, I saw few engines that there was some sharp edge, which was causing the seal to snap. Okay, and before I replaced this, I just even didn't replace the seal. Okay, I knew if it won't gonna work, so engine has to be splitted, cases splitted, and bolt had to be replaced. Okay, so now this is the internal rotor assembly. As you can see, there is a small dot on the top. I didn't find any information about how to install this rotor, which side, but on almost every engine, or even every engine I found, this dot was facing up, the same as on the internal part, the star. Okay, there is also a dot, and over it there is a place for pin. So you cannot install this internal star of rotor in different ways. So I just installed the external rotor in the same way. Okay. So after inspecting this pin, I will install it gently. I repeat gently because there is the seal inside under this rotor, which is already in engine, to avoid damaging it. Don't forget to lubricate with oil this pin, this bolt, sorry, so that when you go through the seal, it is harder to damage seal. You saw that place for a pin, just put it. Okay, and we are almost done with rotors on this side. Okay. Okay, and now this is also a very important part. As you can see, there is some red Loctite left here. Uh, you probably think why there is a Loctite if you already split cases and replaced red red Loctite with normal sealant. It is because I splitted my engine after 20 or 25 hours from new, so it was, there was no damage at all. I just wanted to have, cases with proper sealant, and the pump was good, so I didn't have to even disassemble it. That's why there are some leftovers of red Loctite. But right now I had some issue with engine, so I had to, disassemble it, clean it properly, and prepare for new sealant. There are a few ways to do it. Some people are using proper Loctite, but I prefer to use here a normal case sealant. Okay, a little bit of sandpaper as usually to smoothen surface. Okay, and here is advice for everyone. Whenever you're working with sealant, this free bond sealant, I advise you to use glove or gloves. It is just very, very hard to take it out from your skin. When you put it on your fingers, it will just last for a week or even more and won't like to come off. Okay, so just remember about it. When you apply it, just be gentle with it. Do not do any thick layer, just a thin layer, and avoid it to go into the internal part. Okay, let it go outside, then take the remaining amount which came from the edges, rather than letting it go into the internal part of pump. When you uh, join those two pieces together, make sure that they are aligned so the bolt can go through the hole all the way. Okay, one more thing. When you work generally with sealant, it is very important to clean the surface and to use some, for example, brake cleaner to remove all remaining oil. When you try to put the sealant onto the surface which is not clean properly, the sealant will just not seal the surface. It will, probably go away, or I don't know how to call it. It will just won't work. That's why I'm using a lot of paper, brake cleaner, and compressed air to make sure that the area is perfectly clean and dry. Again, not too thick layer, just a thin layer. It will be enough to seal the surface. Make note that we have here three screws. Two of them are longer and one is shorter. Make sure to put, or maybe one is longer, I'm not sure, but just pay attention to put a proper screw into proper hole. I think maybe one is longer. I have to check it. And of course, I like to use Loctite on screws, even if they are not needed. I think this is a high vibrating engine, and any any screw can, be easily unscrewed. I'm actually not using the Loctite itself. It's a glue from another company which is doing the same stuff with the same properties, and it is an oil mm, resistant and high temperature resistant glue, which can be unscrewed without using heat. Okay, it is important because if I would take if I take harder glue, it won't be possible to unscrew it without heating cases, and I don't want to heat cases here because it's a gentle area. Okay, tied it loose, and then use a dynamometric spanner or key to use the proper values. I'm not sure what was the value. If you want, I will give you a link for to the table with all torque properties specs to the engine. I think it is M6 thread, so it will be around 12 newton meters, but you better check it on this in this table of torques. Remember, when you use this kind of tool, it is important to just to try to feel it, because sometimes if thread is broken or screw is damaged, it will just flow without any resistance. So you might broke even this the case if you do too much force. Here it is the second part of pump, the case. It is a different way of sealing it. There is an O-ring instead of sealant, probably because I think that's my opinion, because they think that sealant is like more resistant and uh, and generally it is harder to replace it in the inside the engine. This O-ring is in outside of the engine, so it can be easily replaced if there is a problem here. So we have new rotors as well. I will install those with dot facing. Oh, sorry, those were used one. Here are new ones. I will install them with dot facing up. And here is a tricky part, because here those pins have two sizes, pins which are going into main bolt. Okay, the larger pin has to go under the rotor, and smaller pin under the sprocket. And when you install uh, new rotors, make sure that you use some oil to them before installing, so they won't work without any lubrication on the beginning of engine start. Okay, I don't have to tell about new O-rings, as they are cheap, so it is always better to use new stuff rather than using the old, even if they look pretty okay. Okay, and as as a another topic, some people are asking me, because I'm just dealing with those engines all the time, asking me how reliable and how long can they last, those engines. And this is like what I'm answering people is, if you buy the something from the market with no history, who and when was doing something with this engine or bike even, it will be probably something like you would bought a 30-year-old Alfa Romeo car. Okay, you never know what can happen and if it's gonna work or not, and for how long. Those bikes and engines are generally known as non-reliable, uh, but mainly because they were not serviced enough. To understand that, you need to know that those bikes are generally meant to be racing bikes, light-weighted racing bikes, and somebody thought, okay, but this is not going to be a proper market, so let's make them road legal so people can ride them on the roads, and if they want, they can go to track. Okay, and that's the main reason because people are treating the or now maybe not because now people are just getting more aware and aware what the bikes are and you can buy a new bike and stuff. So people were treating them as, for example, Suzuki DRZ with and they didn't pay attention to service intervals like frequent oil changes or valve adjustment and other stuff. And make note that this engine has only 1.2 or maybe 1.3 oil capacity inside. So this oil degrades pretty quickly. So that's why we need to do a frequent oil changes. And additionally, there were, oh, don't let's say a lot of early childhood problems with those engines. For example, orange sealant, problem with starters, bad gear starters, bad maps, and stuff. That's why the people were just trashing those bikes, and just there is an opinion that they are not reliable. But to be honest, if we spend enough time on a good enough time and money, of course, because it's expensive. Those parts are generally uh, more expensive than, for example, another supermoto parts. But if you take time to take time and money to have a good rebuild, they can last a long time, I believe, a really long time. There are people who made 30,000 kilometers on stock pistons and liners with only cases uh, uh, reseal inside of this period. Considering that those are mainly racing bikes, this is a very good durability. Okay, so in my opinion, okay, if we have this bike and, for example, open it uh, after 12 or 15,000 kilometers, and we know that what was done before, that somebody was, taking care about oil, checking coolant amount, valves, etc. We can expect that engine can go around 30,000 kilometers, and in this period, about 12 or 15,000 kilometers, I would open this engine just to check if, for example, bushings are not worn out. Okay, it is cheaper to replace bushings for, I don't know, maybe $150 for parts instead of you know $500 for a new crank. Okay, so generally, if they are mechanically set correctly, there is a proper map, proper TPS setting, good starter, good battery. They work as a normal bike, but generally they are high interval maintenance here. So we need to remember about that. For example, when I use this bike on the track, I change oil every 4 to 5 hours. When I use it on the road, I change oil every 1500, and if each second change of engine oil, I change also transmission oil.